So we are now at lesson 9 of our music themed course, painting and drawing and collaging at the moment. So last week I was collaging a drawing that I did a couple of weeks ago of a man with a saxophone. And I was talking about some different techniques that you can use and things like that. And we've looked at a few different artists as well. Oh, there's another one. There we go. Right. So, yeah, I was talking about a few different artists, Patrick Brammer being one of them, amongst a few others. And we were looking at ways, different approaches to collage. So the interesting thing is in the class that we can see there's loads of different approaches. Some people are painting part of the work that they're doing and collaging the background. Some people are collaging the whole thing and then drawing back over the top of the image. Some people are just using collage as well. Also with collage, of course, you can use lots of different materials. You can use your own made materials that you've painted, or you can use magazines, old books and things like that as well. Music, paper. So as you're all aware, there's lots and lots of different types of papers that you can grab and use, even bits of paper. So I've been using PVA with the collage that I've been doing, and some dyed paper on some newsprint with dyeing it with Brusho. So we're going to carry on with that today. Most people are still working on this, or indeed maybe even just started it. So we're going to continue with that work today. So I'm just briefly, I'm going to do a little demonstration. Somebody said to me today, "Oh, could you show us how to do an eye?" Because obviously a lot of these things have musicians playing instruments. So what I thought I would do is I would do the eye again, show you how that happens. Because people are quite fascinated about how that together just using. So I'm going to do that for you. And so I'll just have a quick reminder on the wall, and then we'll go straight over to the desk. Oh, there's another one. I can see you again. There we go. Right. So as you can see, here's all the artists that we're looking at before. So there's Roger Ramu, who is this artist over here, who used the more specific shapes that made a contour around the shape of the face. And you can see different elements here. Something interesting that one person has done today is they have used an app on their phone to take a photograph and then break the shapes down into smaller shapes, very much like this. Made a screenshot of that picture, and then they're using that to work out what shapes and what colours they're going to use in their portrait trumpet. In fact, it was a relative trumpet. So you can use all sorts of different apps, like, the obvious ones are probably Photoshop, but there's loads of different apps that you can use on your phone to create these effects that will give you something that you can work directly from to create collage here. You can see the detail on here is quite small, and then as we go onto the body, we've got these much larger shapes, and there's quite a variety of colour on there, but it really does work well. And one of the reasons why I was talking about the eye is features on a face are going to be quite important if you're going to draw attention to specific areas and make it identifiable when you're going a little bit more abstract. And what I mean by that is something Patrick Brammer, Mark Bolan. So see here how the eyes are really, 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 really fine and close we can get in. I want to look at this picture. I put it on the drive for the class, but you can see here that you've got some very specific dark areas made. And then one thing that always works really well for me when I do the eyes, these highlights that you can see. So there's a little tiny bit of white there on the left. Look at it. That makes the eye look a bit glassy. And if we look at the eye on the right hand side, you can see that, yes, there's white there in the whites of the eyes, but there's a bit of grey, which gives the eye a little bit more depth. Things as well. And the shapes of the shadows are quite specific. One thing that you'll find if you're doing collage, that it to look at the shapes that you're putting down and the shapes that you can see in the picture, which is something that I'm always talking about when it comes to doing any sort of drawing. So there's a little bit of. Let's have a look at another eye. This one. So I don't have any glasses up today. Right in. So you can see again we're using different materials. We've got lots of magazine pieces. But again, a very specific shapes for the eye. But that's contrast with all this very abstract looking stuff. Collage that has been ripped and torn to represent that. So again, looking at specific shapes, and we've got that again on that lady. So I'm going to do an eye now. Just not going to spend too long on it, but I just want to show you how perhaps I might go about by drawing one out quite loosely. Okay, so we'll go over to the desk, and here we are on the old desk here. So these are. For those of you that perhaps have missed a few lessons, these are all the papers we've got here. Now, these are the ones, they're very thin, low quality paper, but works perfectly for dyeing with Brusho inks. So Brusho inks soak right through the paper. This is newsprint, so soak right through the paper. So if you've got a newspaper, it works fine. But you get both sides with colour on, which is fantastic. And then when you tear it, you don't get the white edges on the tearing either, which you would do if you were using something like a piece of acrylic paper, cartridge paper with, and this on here is acrylic paint. If I tear that, you're going to get one side without and one side with white tearing. So depending on what you're doing, I want to tear it a certain way. Hit the paper over, I can get a piece of paper doesn't have white edges. Although I think sometimes the white edges can be quite nice to work with. But as I was saying, with acrylic, it sits on the surface of the paper rather than soaks through it, although this is slightly thicker. Okay, so we've got all these different types of paper. This is the drawing that I did before, and this is what we've been doing so far with the collage and things. So when I did this, the eyes and things, I cut out these shapes very specifically, and I used carbon paper last week to help me get those exact shapes. And then after that, I was tearing areas. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see where I've been tearing the paper and where I've cut it. So I've cut this shape out that I was joking earlier. It almost looks like a pair of sunglasses. And then I've added the highlights in there. And down here, I've cut mouth shape out, cut out nose shapes. And the nice thing, of course, to remember is that you keep layering the paper and get exactly what you want. So very much like acrylic, not looking quite right. Paint or collage in this case back over the top, and I made the beard look a bit fluffy by using as well. So there's still more to do on this, but I'm having great fun with all of these strips and things because I quite like the way that Patrick Kremer uses the directional kind of marks, strips of paper to create this. And then sometimes with really, really detailed areas, and this saxophone does have quite a bit of detail in it. But what I decided to do was just to take some elements and paste them in quite loosely to suggest the saxophone. So things like this circle and things, I just keep looking back at the picture, thinking, oh yeah, there's a circle, put a circle on, collage back over it, put some dark areas. So not being too precise on all of this detail, but kind of getting a saxophone feel to it, if you see what I mean, which is what I was doing earlier today. And then other areas that you really need to wait, that's a bit more time. Okay, so I've got this, got a couple of pictures of eyes here, just as a reference, really. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out a couple of shapes on some darker paper. So I haven't got too many dark bits actually, but what I'm going to do is I've got this here. And you can use your carbon paper if you want to trace directly off, or you can use tracing paper. I'm just going to do this quite quickly. So obviously I'm working really big at the moment here. But I'm just going to cut out shape represent an eye. Not particularly trying to get this exact photograph here. Here we go. So I've got this shape here. I've drawn it on the back of the page, and I'm just going to use a pair of scissors, chop that out. Sometimes you'll find as well that your paper will, when you add the PVA glue, often goes a little bit darker. What I found with saxophone paper didn't look that dark until I added that bit of glue. So I've got this shape here. So again, I'm looking at the specific shapes of that eye in order to do it. Now, the thing as well to watch out for is when you're cutting things out is this is now in reverse compared to how I drew it. Well, so the actual way it would go is there, but I'm going to reverse it out that way, like that. Okay, and then I need, obviously, I use a brush because somebody earlier on today was using like one of those little glue spreaders, and those glue spreaders are all right actually, and you can use them quite well. But a brush can be a little bit softer and avoid smaller bits of paper getting pushed around the sort of picture. If you're trying to do really precise stuff and you've got it just where you want it, and then you use a glue spreader, you know, one of those plastic ones, and everything moves, it can be a bit annoying. Having said that, you could use either a scalpel blade or a pair of scissors just to move things around. If I remember in a second. So I've got my shape of my eye collaged on the surface there. I'm going to add another shape just underneath. So, and this, I was talking earlier as well about surprising, once you get a little bit of confidence doing this, how accurate you can start to realize that you can be if you trust your eyes a little bit more. What you see, you know, your connection between your hand and your eye can be quite accurate with the way that you cut shapes out just by looking at them in front of you. It takes, you get better with practice, but you know, and you can get some accuracy with that. So I've now got what looks like kind of an eye there, and I'm going to find something a bit darker for the center of my eye. So I've got this spare copy of a man playing the guitar. Cut that out, have a look, and I'm going to out shape of the people. So one of the things you can do with a pair of scissors is when you're cutting, you can move the paper. That can help you turn the paper and get a circle. So this circle is quite big as I want it to be, but okay, so so now I've got that in there. The next thing, and this is one of my favorite bits to do, is adding highlight. So last week I used different sized scissors as well. So I've got these embroidery scissors, which, by the way, you can sharpen. These are a bit small. You can sharpen them. I looked this up. You can sharpen scissors. These scissors are meant for paper. You can sharpen them by using a little bit of tin foil and just cutting scissors, the tin foil, and apparently that's supposed to sharpen them. I tried it and I noticed a little bit of difference. Maybe somebody else might be able to tell me how you sharpen. That's what this lady said on the internet. So I'm just looking at the highlight on there. So in a little bit of a highlight on the eye. So already we can see that it's starting to come alive a little bit more. Now I'm going to add shadow and use a bit of this pale blue. I use more of a grey sort of, but cut that out there. So look, I've got that shape. I might actually use my finger and sort of get a bit more natural. If it's not absolutely, normally do is do things like this. Oh, a little bit of a shadow. And like I've said to you before, if it's not right or you're not quite happy, and like with acrylics, you can just collage back over the top. Makes things a lot of fun. In fact, I will say that sometimes when I'm doing collage, I think still not the right color, and I keep going and going until I always get there, but I end up with the paper being quite high up. You know, it piles up. Thing. Oh, I don't mind that either. That's a bit of the work. So let's put a bit more. Okay. One side of the eye on this side is slightly darker, so I'm actually going to put a little bit more. I can find something else. Got the paper here. Something a bit high. Slightly lighter bit in there. Get out. An edge in there. And what I might also do, I'm gonna make it slightly darker again. And I do find if you keep going, it starts to work. Right, so here we've got a strip of paper, and one technique you can also use, and I often use like one of these, a little knife, that is I push it down in place, this, and then I push paper as it goes down, make it curve. So from a straight piece, quite malleable, particularly a thinner paper, and in details like this. I've done ones where they're really, really small as well, so you can do all sorts with these pieces. So that was just a piece of photograph right there. I'm going to do another bit which goes around the shape way as well. I'm also going to add a bit more colour into the iris itself. Sometimes I make videos of doing this sort of, and then speed up the videos, and you can see the glue drying really, really fast. So it starts with all this sort of milky sort of colour like we've got at the moment, and it dries nice and clear. EVA. Hear that bird outside? It woke me up this morning. So, right. Just moving the paper. I don't know. Often outside of the eye is a bit darker. Using this knife, curve that line around like that, and add a bit more glue on top. There's a little bit of a gap there, so I'm just gonna bit more brown at the bottom. This size you can do things like start to put in eyelashes. So I'm just going to do this for now. So a little bit more colour in here. This nice light brown colour. I've got myself to use that. I'm putting a little bit of colour just around the bottom eye. Right? On one edge, I'm going to cut a bit out there. Stick that right. And then I can use something like this where I want it. And then glue back on top. We'll have a look at this again when it's a bit drier. Let's find something a bit lighter for the guy. That's quite nice. But if you remember when I dyed the paper, add water. So that later. I've got a slightly lighter colour. It's just to soften. Again, you got to see it's just getting a little bit more of a glassy quality to it. I'm gonna finish up by just putting a line around the top fold of the eye, which is that bit. And I might draw this sometime, but I guess how that goes. I'm kind of doing what Matisse would have done. He was collaging, which is drawing with scissors. He called it. Did all his organic shapes, circus pictures, and remember this is backwards as well. A little bit of a eyelid going on. Yeah. I'm going to use this darker colour. There. In there like that. So this is slightly thicker paper. So it's wetter, a bit less malleable. We'll do it. Another blue. A bit too bright. I'm going to try it anyway though. I've got a brush in my mouth. Go. That in there for now. And too much longer. I can talk to you. So, because it's paper, of course, we're using shapes here to construct the image. Little. I always end up choosing blue. Blue is just my favourite colour. That. You see, once you get going, I'll finish in a second, but I keep going. And then in a minute, I'll stop. It's dry. Back another bit after. Red. Paper is really sloppy. A bit wet there. Yeah. See how where the layering comes into everything. Another bit of stuff. One of these wrinkled by there. Well, yeah. One more bit, just one more bit. More tearing. Now, the other thing, of course, that I mentioned when I showed my sketchbook is that once you've done all of this, there's nothing to stop painting, drawing back over the top. So, you know, if you're thinking, this detail and things like that, and you want to, you know, just have a go at drawing onto it, then try it out, because just like paint, just like mixed media and all these things, there are so many approaches. And I was saying earlier today, that's what I'd like to see, you know, what other people do and how they approach. So I'm not trying, it's not a one technique or one process fits all at all. It's about trying stuff out and having a bit of fun with it as well. Creating this picture with music on. I think that this particular subject lends itself quite nicely to collage. Sorry, brushing my mouth. Right, and then there. So here I've just added a couple of highlights in a little bit of just normal white paper. in there like that. And one other thing I often like to do as well, I really enjoy doing, and you saw me do this on a bigger scale with the man with the saxophone. I like to do these dots of detail. So the way I do that is I put a bit of glue wherever I want these dots to be. So in this case, I'm going to do there, and I think that creates a little bit of magic or excitement within the picture or interest. But got a very thin strip of paper and a scalpel blade. I have, so that's my line, if you like, just there. And I'll zoom in. And you can put some of the small, it's almost like putting small detail in. Do a couple here, perhaps. Okay. Fun. And then I'm going to do highlights. Well, of course, I would put in eyelashes and so forth. Well, he just stopped. All right. So one eye started off with blue skin, I think. Oh, just want to do a bit more now. Just along the top there. See? You look quite closely at stuff. Start to spot more and more things that you want to do. Get more. Slightly. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that, or show you in a little bit more detail how to get these. Not such a good picture, but getting those details in really important. Making the portrait, even if it's quite abstract like this. Actually, there's about 3 M's on her. But even when it's quite abstract like that, having something quite precise and clear, like the eyes, help make sense. Okay. Loose and abstract like that saxophone. Okay. The other thing to look out for that I've noticed a lot today is when you put all the colours down, you might start to see that. So it's important that very clearly on this image, have really light areas. On the face here, we've got the dark hair, the dark eye, shadow on the left, the light areas on the right hand side, and the hand look on the right, light fingers, okay, deep, nice black shadows around them. Okay, the contrast again. All right. Okay, right. I hope you enjoyed that. I know I spent ages doing that, but and you're probably all getting on and working anyway. So, does anyone want to ask anything about what I've been doing here? Oh,
that was really good.
Yeah, useful.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
My eye looked for me looking out, Jamie.
Oh, really?
With a gas bubble. Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, what with the little bit underneath here? Yeah. Yeah. So, I hope that's useful. Sort of show you some of the things that I do when I'm collaging away here. Yeah, I can find it. I've got so much paper on my desk now. There you go. Look, there it is. So when I did this was almost like a pair of sunglasses. Then I worked back in. I had these quite precise here, and this shape. So precise shapes with some of the ripped bits seems to work quite nicely. Okay. Magic. Yes. So, does anyone else need help or? Okay, so I'm just continuing really this evening with collaging, and you'll see me here using both the newsprint and, as you can see there, the cartridge paper with the acrylic paint. So it's a mixture of brush owings and acrylic sheets of paper that I've prepared to do the collaging work that you can see on here. So just at the moment there, I'm adding in some shadows for the wrinkles on the shirt and so forth. And then in a few minutes, I'll be working on the hand to the lower left-hand side of the picture. But certainly just continuing to layer things over each other really works well. And you just see me there using the carbon paper by putting it under the picture and tracing around the shape, so I could get the exact shape in. And then after that, it's much more kind of loose guesswork, if you like, either cutting out shapes or tearing shapes to add highlights and things onto the hands. They look a little bit glovey to me at the moment, but if I was to work a lot longer on those hands, of course, then I could get more detail in should I choose to. Although it may not be entirely necessary, as we've got the main focus of this picture on the face and parts of the saxophone as well. So I'm just filling in the sleeve here. I've got the angles of the lines or thick chunks going off in the other direction, which adds a little bit of movement into the sleeve and the body. And here, interestingly enough, I wasn't trying to get the exact shape of every part of the saxophone. I decided I wasn't going to do that. I was going to loosen up a little bit. And just where I see highlights at the moment, I'm putting those in. And then I'm building up layers for the reflections and things on the saxophone as well. And just then, the little black line around the funnel bit of the saxophone, I used a single piece of paper and sort of curved it and glued it on as we went around there as well. And obviously a few more highlights going in as we progress here as well. So I don't quite get to the end of this today, but I suspect I'll be doing a little bit more and trying out some other ideas on here next week, including perhaps using a biro pen back over the top, maybe. I'm not entirely sure just yet what I'm going to do. Slow down a bit there. But we'll have a go. We'll explore and see what else we can come up with. Perhaps we'll look at some other artists and how they worked and do something similar with that. There we go. So I'm just putting in like lines and things to show the direction of the reflections and stuff. And you saw me put a little bit of white on the back of the hand just to say sort of maybe lift that area slightly. Just working around the fingers here as well. And the important thing to remember is I am to a degree kind of using a bit of my own kind of innovation as far as adding the shapes in, but I'm always referring back to my original drawing, which you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen. And I'm just putting in the other hand in now. I don't think that will get much further than that this evening, but you can see how things are starting to take shape. And I really enjoyed you working in this way, because it is a little bit quicker and looser and more experimental than the way I often work, in that I'm allowing kind of little mistakes and errors and then working back over those. And sometimes I find that those kinds of errors actually help to create a little bit more energy within the picture. And what I mean by errors is, happy accidents, which is something I mentioned to a student this week as well. The idea that you can work on something, you can make mistakes, and then you can work back over them, and you can keep the bits that perhaps you didn't plan for, but they sort of worked anyway, and then so you just carried on working with them. And then those you didn't, you just work back over. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this evening's lesson, and you've enjoyed watching the progress of this piece. And I'll see you next week for lesson 10.